So you might have already heard about MCP or Model Context Protocol by the team behind Claude, and people are being crazy over it. Like, this guy made this MCP server that allows Claude to make Blender designs for him with a single prompt while he sits back and relaxes. So you see, large language models are quite powerful, but they live in a sandbox and thus they cannot read your files, query your databases, call your APIs, or access anything on your computer. And if you want to feed all that data to the LLM manually, it takes a lot of resources, and resources take a lot of money. Now, what is the solution for this? The solution is MCP. So what is MCP? MCP basically is a protocol, just like HTTP for the web. So MCP basically allows you to build tools or functions that the AI model can call. When MCP is in the action, it basically contains the model, an MCP server, and a third-party data source, maybe somewhere outside on the internet or on your computer. So the model makes a request to the MCP server to fetch some data from the third-party server, and the third-party server returns some data to the model. The model talks to this MCP server over what we call a transport layer. Now, for MCP servers, this transport layer is basically standard input and output, nothing complex like HTTP or something else. So the MCP architecture contains the host, which is the device or application that is running the AI. This host is managing the connections to the MCP server, and the connections to the MCP servers are made over MCP protocols. A host can connect to multiple MCP servers, which can in turn connect to multiple data sources, either local or remote. The MCP server can invoke two types of functions. First is the resource. The resource is like an HTTP GET request, which allows the model to get some data from this data source, and to make some changes or perform some action, we use tools. So tools are basically the functions that the AI model can use or call. You define what they do and the AI model should use them. This is basically like the HTTP POST request. The third component is the transport, which determines how the server and the host communicate. MCP uses standard input and output for the transport. Now let's understand how this all is put together with the help of an MCP server we build ourselves and connected to Claude Desktop. So here's our MCP server, and let's see how it works. So first of all, we are importing the MCP SDK. This is our data source or a database of jokes. Right now it's just an array, but it could be a database query, an API call to any other service, reading from your file system, or something else. Now we are creating an instance of this MCP server, and we're naming it Dad Jokes server. So this server will run in a separate process, and Claude Desktop will communicate with it. Now, here is our list of tools, and the model sees this as a list of functions that it can invoke. In this case, it is getDadJoke, which retrieves a joke from this dataset. Now here we define what happens when Claude invokes the tool, like this is the logic for the function. Now here we define the transport and start the server. It creates a communication channel using standard input and output. When Claude Desktop will launch the server, it starts Python script as a sub-process and connects to its standard input or output, so you don't need to worry about networking, ports, or HTTP. It's all handled through pipes. Now let's connect this to Claude Desktop. To do that, I'll launch Claude Desktop. Then we'll go to the settings and then go to developer, edit config, and then the config will open up here. Let's open it using Visual Studio Code. Now let's paste this config here. So this is basically the path where the Python file is present, and the command should be Python 3 or py. In this case it's py. If you're on Mac or Linux, you'll have to use Python 3. Now we'll just close Claude Desktop and relaunch. Now let's ask Claude to give us a dad joke. As you can see, it's asking for permission to get the dad joke from the Dad Jokes MCP server. I'll click on Allow Once. And here's the dad joke from our database. So hopefully you now have an idea of what MCP is and how it works. If you want to learn more about MCPs and build your own MCP servers, check out the course by Scrimba in the description. And if you want to buy Scrimba Pro and get full access to the course, make sure to check the second link in the description, using which you can get a 20% discount. That's MCP under 10 minutes. See you later.